Well, the latest is, we signed and contracted to do a rematch, and that's what it is right now.
Do you know when it's going to be, when we can hear?
I don't got no date right now, but I know that's the next fight that Terence Crawford.
How long do you think it will be before we have some news about that?
I don't know. It's still up in the air, given this male boxer, undisputed, in any division in the 4-belt era, and I honor, that, and if he was to come to me or activate his.
It could happen. Why not? If Crawford want to challenge himself to be great, let him try to be great. So, what I'm saying, I'm with it. So, I'll be going for Bud. If he fight Canelo, I'll be going for him.
The sport is in chaos once again. Just when it seemed like Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. had gone their separate ways, talks for a rematch have suddenly resurfaced as of April 2025. And this time, it's more than just rumors. Negotiations are taking place behind the scenes. Both fighters are discussing it, and tensions are escalating quickly, with Crawford already questioning Spence's place in boxing. Let's get you caught up.
I wanted to see that immediately after that fight, but now time has kind of ran its course. I don't want to see Errol. I just don't want to see Errol get done like that again. That's all. Yeah, I believe Errol Spence is a generational talent, great fighter.
Crawford and Spence have never been ones to hold back, and now that talks of a rematch are becoming reality, the tension between them is only growing louder. They're taking shots at each other through interviews, social media, and even during a heated live exchange. Spence, who has been out of the ring since his brutal loss to Crawford in 2023, is more fired up than ever. He's pushing hard for the rematch, claiming that the first fight didn't tell the full story, that he was drained at 147 pounds and the weight cut took everything out of him. Crawford, however, is reminding everyone of what happened the last time they met in the ring, how he knocked Spence down 3 times and how the fight wasn't even close. But Spence refuses to accept that narrative. He remains convinced that at 154 pounds, everything will be different.
But you gonna knock my first?
Because I don't want us personally. We talking about what we want to see. I don't want to see it because I know what it's gonna look like. The same as it looked last time.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Errol Spence wasn't the same.
What was wrong with him?
He looked slow. He looked he looked sluggish.
Why?
I can't tell you. I wasn't in camp.
At the division, he dominated for his entire career. All of a sudden, when it came time for this fight, he looked different. Why?
I wasn't in camp with him. I can't tell you. I don't know if his body finally broke down from being at 147 for too long.
The entire rematch saga has been a roller coaster from the moment Spence exercised the rematch clause after their first fight, where Crawford dominated him in July 2023. Spence wasted no time triggering clause, eager for another shot. However, the contract was clear. Unless either fighter submitted written notice stating they could make 147 pounds, the rematch would take place at welterweight again. Spence never officially submitted that notice, but he and his team kept insisting the fight should happen at 154 pounds. Crawford wasn't having it. He had no reason to give Spence any advantage after beating him so decisively. That's where the standoff began.
The fight can't be made, but weight can't be used as an excuse and sort of say, I don't feel like it. Like, I'll go up for this guy, but not another guy. So, that's sort of the spirit. The language is very, more precise and very definitive. But the concept is, out of fairness, is, let's not be selective.
Then, Spence's health issues put everything on hold. Eye surgery, recovery, and doubts about whether he could even return to his previous form. While Spence was dealing with all that, Crawford moved on, winning another title at 154 pounds by defeating Israel Madrimov. When reporters asked him about a potential rematch, he shut down any talk of it, barely acknowledging the possibility. Nah, he said, dismissing it completely. At that point, it seemed like the rivalry was truly over for good.
Same question, but I want your reaction. Is the Errol Spence rematch on the table still, or? Nah.
All right, we're gonna wrap that.
I'm trying to tell you.
But now, things are shifting quickly. Crawford is no longer completely shutting the door on the rematch, and Spence is ramping up the pressure, calling him out at every opportunity. Most fans believe Spence deserves another shot, arguing that the weight cut really did affect him and that it wasn't the real Spence in the ring that night. Others, however, view that as an excuse, insisting he got exposed and that a rematch would play out the same way, no matter what weight class it's in.
I truly believe that the fight would have went that way regardless, because stylistically, the fundamentals on that level, Crawford is just outclasses Errol Spence in every single category.
Spence, however, is making this personal. He's openly accusing Crawford of ducking him, try to back out of the contract, and acting like the first fight never happened just because he came out on top. Crawford, never one to let anyone control the narrative, is firing back. He's telling Spence that he had his chance, that he was dominated, and that he didn't even look like he belonged in the ring with him.
54 or 47, but I'm sure he probably gonna push the weight up, but there's not gonna be no change in the decision. The performance still is gonna be the same. Might be even a little bit better. So he might want to watch out before he activate the rematch clause.
Now, in real time, both fighters are making it clear they're ready to go to war once again, despite everything. Spence remains confident, insisting that Crawford has never faced him at full strength. He argues that he wasn't himself in their first fight and promises to prove everyone wrong. Crawford, on the other hand, is almost laughing at the idea that anything will be different. He believes Spence is overrated, his style too predictable, and if they meet again in the ring, he'll beat him even faster the second time. The trash talk is getting more intense by the day, and with both men now openly admitting that negotiations are underway, this fight is looking more real than ever.
Let's go! As you can see, man, breaking news, Errol Spence then activated that rematch clause to fight Terence again, right? Let's be honest, we all saw the fight. Crawford beat boogers out that boy.
The trash talk is already causing a stir in the sport. Terence Crawford and Shakur Stevenson have always shared a strong bond, built on years of respect, mentorship, and shared goals. But now, their views on Errol Spence Jr.'s legacy are pulling them in opposite directions. Crawford, never one to hold back his opinions, has sparked a firestorm by outright dismissing Spence's Hall of Fame credentials. Stevenson, one of the sport's brightest young champions, isn't having it. This disagreement is fueling heated debates among fans, analysts, and even fighters, with differing opinions on what truly constitutes a Hall of Fame career.
You know what I mean? That's a good win. I'm still a fan. I hope he do well. But like, once it got to the point where I moved up in weight and I'm in the same weight as Spence, it's just like, oh man, you ain't fighting nobody. You this, you that, you this, you that. So now they trying to blemish my accomplishment just to boost him up. I'm like, dude, you're not gonna do that. Because I can retire right now and be in the Hall of Fame. He could, everything that I've accomplished, he's still trying to accomplish. I don't want to sound like I'm hating on him. I honestly don't know if he make it to the Hall of Fame with the accolades that he did. Right.
Crawford ignited the controversy during an appearance on the Pound for Pound podcast with Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo. When the topic of Spence's legacy came up, Crawford didn't hesitate. In his view, Spence doesn't make the cut. His reasoning? Spence only fought in one division, while Crawford acknowledged Spence's accomplishments, unifying 3 welterweight titles and defeating top-tier opponents like Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, and Dennis Yugas. He was firm in his belief that it wasn't enough. For Crawford, a Hall of Famer is someone who conquers multiple weight classes, builds an undeniable resume, and proves their greatness across more than just one division.
You discredit one of the best wins on your resume, it starts to make people look at your resume with a question mark. Terence Bud Crawford.
Crawford's statement struck a nerve across the entire boxing community. He didn't just critique Spence's career. He effectively closed the door on any discussion about his place in boxing history. This has led to a significant backlash, with fans and experts calling Crawford out for downplaying Spence's achievements. Some see it as unnecessary disrespect, while others believe Crawford is simply being honest. However, the most surprising pushback didn't come from analysts or former fighters. It came from Shakur Stevenson, one of Crawford's closest friends. When asked about Crawford's comments during an interview with Best Women's Boxing Show, Stevenson was quick to disagree. "I feel as though Errol had a great career," he said, standing firm in his position. "If it wasn't for Bud, he would have been undisputed. He went and got every belt, one by one. I think he's a Hall of Famer." Stevenson's words cut to the narrative Crawford was trying to push, offering a different perspective, one that acknowledged Spence's dominance before their fight, and what could have been if Crawford hadn't stood in his way.
Terence went on Pound for Pound podcast, and he said that Errol Spence will not be a Hall of Famer. Can you just give me your thoughts on that?
I disagree.
You disagree? Why do you disagree?
I feel as though Errol had a great career. If it wasn't for Bud, he would have been undisputed. So he went and got every belt one by one by one. I think he's a Hall of Famer.
Stevenson's stance highlights an ongoing debate in the boxing world about what truly defines greatness in a Hall of Fame. Is it the ability to conquer multiple divisions? Or can fighters secure their legacy by ruling over a single weight class? Stevenson clearly believes that Spence's dominance at 147 pounds is enough to solidify his legacy. However, Crawford isn't budging. For him, even Spence's success as a unified champion in one division doesn't qualify him for immortality in the Hall of Fame.
I don't think Errol's run was long enough, no Diddy, to automatically put him in the Hall of Fame. He was a very good fighter. If there was a Hall of Very Good, he would be going into that. But Hall of Fame, no. If you were in charge of writing the Hall of Fame speech for Errol Spence, and I was in charge of writing a Hall of Fame speech for Bud Crawford, my Hall of Fame speech listing my credentials, listing my accolades for Bud Crawford would sound a lot better than your speech for Errol Spence, bro. Yeah, I don't think unifying and holding 3 titles automatically puts you in the Hall of Fame.
The tension between Crawford and Stevenson may not be a full-blown rift, but it's certainly making waves. Their friendship has always been rooted in mutual respect. But this is one of the rare moments they publicly disagree on something significant. Stevenson isn't just another fighter sharing his opinion. He's someone who has spent years learning from Crawford, training alongside him and looking up to him. For him to challenge Crawford's perspective so directly speaks volumes. It also raises questions about how this disagreement might affect their relationship in the long run. If there's anyone whose Hall of Fame status should be questioned, some might argue it's not Spence, but Crawford himself. What do you think about the entire saga? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates.